Welcome back to another episode of the Bridging Divides podcast. Our guest today here, Chris Ramirez. Man, what a stud. Here's what this episode is going to give you. If you've got questions about how, are the struggles in your life too much to where, you can't keep going, or if you think that your environment is something that is holding you back. It's easy to feel that way, right? Crap happens to all of us and we make mistakes, but it is never too late to get out of those mistakes and to find a way forward. And our buddy Chris here today, dude, in the short amount of time that I have known you and heard your story, my man, like, you got a heck of a story, bro.
There's a little bit to it.
Yeah, a little bit to it, man. Yeah. And it's crazy. I feel like, every time we talked, it's like there was something else where you're just like, oh, yeah. I was like, what? You didn't tell me that? I was just like, what the heck? Here I am, this like sheltered little, white Mormon boy, in my own little bubble. And I'm just like, bro, like, this is crazy. But it, again, like, your story just goes to show, though, that, like, it's never too late. And like, and I don't want to like be, I want to make sure I'm sensitive to everybody, but like, you can't blame your surroundings, right? Like, you are in control of what you do.
Exactly.
And just like, my man, like, so please, so you work here at Mind 24/7. That's where we're in one of their offices here. It's really nice, which we've done an interview with Adam before. Yep. If you guys remember, fantastic interview.
Mr. Perkins, we call him the Perkinator.
The I like it. No, he's fantastic, and I love what Mind does. As far as like, it's like old, it's kind of like urgent care for mental health issues.
That's right.
You need to see somebody right away. We can get in here and see him. Well, like, tell us a little bit about, I guess we'll start just kind of, you said you've been here for how long?
So I've been here pretty much since it opened. I was here when there was only one location. It was Thomas. And it was a really strange situation, how it all came about. I had no idea that I was working with kids. That whole piece was left out.
It's heavy. So, man, I mean, mental health is hard, but like,
yeah,
with teens,
yeah, and especially when you're used to going hands-on and you're used to the worst of the worst, like literally getting beat up at night. I remember one time I got punched in my ear at 6:30 in the morning. If they would have done it like 12 o'clock at night, I would have had more energy. It'd have been a little bit better. But 6:30 in the morning is not a good time to get punched in your ear.
Yeah,
But you deal with the worst, right? But then from those situations, you end up on the floor praying with somebody or crying with somebody or patting them or letting them know that everything's going to be all right, because most of the things that are done to us are done out of fear. Yeah. Most of the times when we do things to people, it's done out of fear, because hurting people hurt people. That's what I've learned. So then when they said it's kids, I'm like, I can't do that stuff to kids. Like, I can't, this is different. Hold on, wait a minute. And I literally got thrown in a facility and realized that there were little bitty kids in there. About halfway through the day, I didn't want to be there anymore. And then a kid came in that, I guess he looked like a man to me. He had a full beard. But he was brought to the kid entrance, and I'm like, hey, who's this guy? And they called a code, and we had to go hands-on. And that's just one of the things that happens in behavioral health. It's very unfortunate. But there's beauty in ashes, right? So we go hands-on with this guy, and he's full-blown. He's going at it, and we did everything we're supposed to do. And then we got him to a calmer state, and we set him down next to a 4-year-old. It was a very weird dynamic. But then once I seen that, I was like, wait a minute, this is for me.
Yeah.
There's something I can do here.
How do you, well, let me back up here. So I heard a story one time about kind of this guy. He's trying to like help this dog that's hurt, right? There's a hurt paw or something like that. He goes to help and it bites at him, right? And he talked about how he had to put these super thick gloves on, and he called them the gloves of love, essentially. So it's like, if he's going to help this hurt dog, like, he has to have this thick skin of love to be able to help this hurt dog, right? And saying that hurting people hurt people, just like what you're saying. How have you been able to love those people as you are getting hit or punched or whatever?
I have a nice shirt on. Mr. Perkinator told me so today. He said, that's a really nice shirt. You look really good, Chris. I said, yeah, I know. I know. I actually meant to print off some pictures that I wanted to show you guys, but maybe I can do it on my phone or something. But the person that you see right now is not the person that I've been. This person comes in every morning and looks at the blue chairs where the patients are. This person wore scrubs. This person was happy to wear scrubs because my clothes were dirty. This person has been a patient. This person has put a needle in his arm and didn't have nothing left in it to push in me. This person has been to the very, and when I say the bottom, I don't know how to explain that to people, but it's like, it's not, I was emotionally, I was devastated. I was homeless in here, not out there. I was homeless in here. And so something happened. There's a lot more to that whole deal and story. And there's some things that really, really happened in 2012. But when I tell people that I love them, I mean that. Sometimes working with the staff is worse than working with the patients. God, some of the things that I've been, just the false accusations, the things that have been said, that, different stuff, or the way people take things that you do,
or getting offended, just different things.
It's really rough sometimes. But you know what? Those are the same people I look out for and try to keep. Because when I tell somebody that I care about them, I genuinely mean that. Yeah. And it doesn't take anything for me to care about somebody. I love these people. And so when I've been punched in the ear, that guy and I seen him the very next shift that I came in. He was back, and he had a cast on because he broke some bones in his hand on my head. No. I've been told I have a hard head, you know what I mean? But
it came in handy there,
right? Right, handy, right? So I walk in and I go to the unit and he has his hand in a cast, and he was different. There was something different about him. There was like a humility to him, a little bit more humble. And when I walked in, I said, "Hey, man, are we gonna have problems?" I said, because if so, I don't want no problems. I said, I still have a headache. I'll go back to a different unit, man. And he was like, no, I've been wanting to talk to you. I said, hold on, let me get somebody with us. And so I called somebody over, and the guy comes up and he apologizes. He's like, man, I'm so sorry. And man, my mind, and I was paranoid and this and that. And he starts like really deeply, apologizing to me. Wow. And he's like, I'm so sorry, this and that. I said, well, let me tell you one thing. You have a really, really good right hand. I said, I'm sorry for the cast now, but you got a really good right hand. As we are boxing, we ended up laughing and joking and talking about where we've been. You know what I mean? There's something. I've been somewhere that maybe some people haven't been. Yeah. Been to the bottom. I've been in prison before I ever got locked up.
Man.
So that's kind of where I'm at.
So the experiences that you've had help give you more compassion for people.
I guess there's no other way to say it than take a licking and keep on ticking. Mm-hmm. I've been loved much. I've been forgiven much. Mm-hmm. I've had some big mercy and big grace in my life. And I promise you, there's no reason why I should be alive. There's no reason why I should be here today. But there's some kind of, and I know this is cliche, and I know people hear this a lot, but there's a reason why I'm still here. And I get reminded of that a lot when I start acting like the old Chris. When I start acting a fool, like my mom and my dad would always tell me, Chris, you're acting a fool. I remember that there's some kind of reason. There's something that I'm still here for. And so when I look at my patients and when I look at people, when I'm driving down the street, can't tell you how many times I stop and talk to people. Or, my wife gets really upset sometimes because can't go to a grocery store without conversations. And, but it's just a part of me because that's who I was, Mm-hmm. It's very, very easy to forgive people. Because I was the person that was out hurting everyone. Mm. So,
man, that
works for me.
So tell us your story. So your story here, because I mean, we're kind of hinting at a lot of these things. Where you've been at and what you've been through. Start from the beginning.
Well, so I mean, I've already said, I grew up well. I grew up in church. My mom taught me how to pray since I was a little bitty baby. My dad was a man of honor. A lot of people love my dad. He had some stuff that he went through and some stuff that has happened in our life, of course, right? But I grew up, I can't say that I didn't know we were poor. Mm-hmm. I grew up with love. I grew up with care, But somewhere along the line, I got really bad, and I ended up extremely, extremely addicted to drugs. From a very young age, I was drinking alcohol. By the age of 14, I was completely addicted to methamphetamines. That was a terrible drug. Now I know it's a terrible drug, but I'm going to tell you this. That's an amazing drug. It's an amazing drug. I ask people all the time, every day I get to ask people, do you have a drug problem? you have an alcohol problem? And everyone raises their hand. And I tell them, I ask them, what's the problem? What's the problem? Well, and it kind of gets them stuck because there is no problem. If you do meth, it gets you high. If you drink,
Get you drunk.
you get drunk.
Yeah.
There's no problem in it. It's the one thing that we have found in our life. It's the one thing I found that worked perfect. I didn't have a drink problem. I didn't have a drug problem. I knew exactly how to do it. I perfected it. I was scientific about it. I know how to take a torch and blow a piece of glass into a pipe.
Yeah.
Like I can measurements but I'm not trying to dwell on that. What I'm trying to say is this: I didn't have that problem. What I had was a sober problem. What I had was facing life problem, reaching out for help problem,
Which resulted in turning to
right
drugs and alcohol as a coping mechanism.
Right. It's everywhere. And it works perfect. You just got to find the one that works for you. So everyone's addicted to some kind of different drug or whatever it may be. There's all kinds of addictions, right? Food, pornography, gambling, whatever.
Yeah. Substance or behavioral.
Correct. So anyways, I got extremely addicted to meth. And then somewhere along the line, I found out that things were turning, when I was using it, it was turning really dark. And somebody said, oh, that's because it has heroin in it. I was like, oh, wow, well, that feels really good. So then I started dabbling with that, and I dabbled with this and that. And just like Elvis Presley or anyone else, I went up and I went down, and I loved it. Then I went up again, and I went down and up and down. So I ended up, just long story short, I ended up losing some sons. I lost a family. I still to this day work, excuse me.
Please.
I still to this day work on restoring some of the things that I've done. I'm not here to talk about what anyone else has done or my ex-wife has done or anyone. It's not about what everyone else done. I know that I left them at one of the most critical times of their life. But that was a result of me finding something that worked perfect, I thought, and chasing it. So in 2012, I'm just going to say this, it came to the end of that road. It wasn't because of a program, or it wasn't because of it was because of 10,000 things. But ultimately, I don't know. All I could say is I blame it on God, but whoever your God is or whatever your higher power is. Yeah. But I ended up catching a charge and I got arrested. I'd been arrested before. I've been in and out of jail and different things, but this time I was going to prison. And when I went to prison, there's an hour worth of story just in that alone of how merciful and how great I was walked through that. My first offer was 8 years. Then it went to 5, and it ended up being 14 months. I signed for 2 years. I ended up doing 14 months.
Wow.
Because it was my first actual drug charge. But anyways,
just a lot of mercies there.
Yeah.
In that whole process.
Yeah. I don't want to. So moving forward.
Right. Yeah.
I did end up going. I said, hey, if I'm going to prison, I want to go today. They took me. They locked me up. I ended up getting sentenced a couple weeks later. And then I ended up going to prison. I went to a place called Alhambra, which some people know, some people don't. But it's right by the Arizona State Hospital. Let me back up real quick. I'm sorry.
No, please.
Right before this, my probation officer came to the house and said, we know what you're doing. We didn't find nothing when they shook my house down, but they said, we know what you're doing.
No way.
They said, you're going to go to this place called, I don't want to say it on here just because, but a behavioral health detox facility. They said, you're going to go there and you're going to check in. They said, and if you don't, we'll be here to arrest you tonight. We'll find you.
Get out.
Cool. So I went and I checked into this place, and there was all these weird people, and it's like, I looked around, I'm like, the employees look like they're on drugs. These guys got more tattoos than me, One of the guys had a big, just, it was just a lot.
Yeah.
But I remember them putting their finger in my face, and I remember them telling me a lot of stuff. And I remember this one guy making me pray a serenity prayer, and I'm like, I don't want to pray with you.
Yeah.
You look like you're on drugs right now, man. I don't want, you know what I mean? But it was so weird, all the things that I heard in there. So now moving forward, I went ahead, I got in trouble 2012. I ended up getting sentenced, and on Friday the 13th, I got moved to Alhambra. It was the ugliest place ever, dirty, rotten, nasty place. And I was there, and that's cool, and you're just waiting. You're basically just waiting, just biding your time. Even your meals, you have to eat really, really fast, and you're shacked up with a bunch of different men, and like it's dark and it's ugly. Probably the darkest place I've ever been in my life. Well, a couple of days later, they come in my cell, and they say, Ramirez. And I said, yeah. They said, what's your number? And I told them my number. And they said, we regret to inform you, that kind of talking through the little trap. Like, we regret to inform you, but your father has just expired, Edward Ramirez. I said, what does expired mean? They said, he's dead. He died. My dad was just at court when I had got sentenced. And it's like, and so many things hit me right then, because like, I remember the way he shook my hand, like he wouldn't let it go. And it was weird because my dad and I were cool, but we weren't, my dad was never chummy. And so many things started making sense really, really fast. I'm like, man, this dude waited until I went to prison so that he could die, because he's been dying for years, but he finally gave it up. So anyways.
Man, that's rough, dude.
They shut the door. They say, is there anything you need or whatever? And I said, yeah. I said, if you could send a clergyman or somebody to come by here, okay, we'll see what we can do. And they shut the door. Great. So I'm laying in this dark, black hole with a very, very dim light. The windows were spray painted. You could barely see little scratches out of them. And I'm back in this place. And all I could think of, like as I would go to sleep and I'd wake back up and all these different things and different situations, is I remember this guy that I really, really didn't like at this time. To me, he looked like a white supremacist. Today he's probably one of my better friends, one of my best friends. Yes, sir.
But in that
moment, he had a shaved head and a big old long beard, and I'm just stereotyping
the
now,
stereotypical prison
right. Tattoos
white
all
guy
over,
in prison.
And I don't know. I think he has a swastika on the back of his head or something. I don't know. He'll probably see this and laugh, but I remember that guy sticking his finger in my face and saying, "You're gonna pray this prayer after me, old country boy." And I prayed that prayer, but in that cell, that prayer came back. A very simple prayer. Just help me to accept the things that I can't change, and help me to change the things that I can, and then the wisdom to know the difference. And that prayer came alive to me in that place.
Amazing.
And the things they said in that detox facility, and those behavioral health agents and the professionals and the nurses and everything that they said when they put their finger in my face, all that stuff came back to me. I remember one person, I don't even remember exactly who it was, but I remember somebody coming up to me and telling me, "Chris, how do you eat an elephant?" I'm like, what? Why would I eat an elephant? I want McDonald's right now.
Weirdest question.
Why would I eat an elephant? And they're like, how do you eat an elephant? Because it's a lot like recovery. I was like, I don't know. They're like, you eat it one bite at a time. One piece. So in that moment right there in Alhambra, I started munching on that elephant. I got up and I changed what I could, which was me taking one of my socks, getting up, putting some Bob Barker toothpaste on it, and cleaning the mirror in the morning. And then I'd brush my teeth, not with the same sock, but I would clean up, and I'd clean my face, and I'd get on my bed and I'd pray a little bit, and I would go over some of the things that I learned. And anyways, moving forward, I'm ready to get out of this place and I'm good to go.
Yeah.
And the COs come back and they're like, Ramirez, what's your number? And I said, my number is this. And they said, we need to talk to you. This person has just killed themselves. I said, what do you mean? This was a sister of mine.
Yeah.
Younger, very younger. Killed herself. So I ended up staying in Alhambra for about 30 days, which is supposed to be about a 3-day thing or something like that.
Yeah.
Just a really, really dark, ugly place.
Wow.
Never seen a clergy in person. Never none of that. Finally, they come. They ask me again. This time I'm ready for it. Who died this time? So they're like, no, nobody died. You're getting out of here. You're going to the yard. I'll never forget that day. So we go out there. We get the processing done. We do all that stuff, and I go to the prison yard. And they move me around a little bit. I started in Buckeye here, and just a lot going on. In this time, I found out that the girlfriend that I had at the time, we're not going to say what I used to call her. She knows. We joke around a lot and stuff, but I didn't care about nobody at this time. It was nothing. Well, she calls me and tells me that she's pregnant. I only had kids with one person at this time, and I had just destroyed that, made a big old mess of that whole relationship. So it was just really rough. It was a really rough time.
Yeah.
So I'm going through all this stuff through prison, and then this kiddo's born. And I remember that day because I get called in the middle of lockdown, and they're like, you need to go talk to the CO3. So I'm walking. I'm just thinking, well, great. I wonder who died this time. So I'm walking down the aisle, and as I'm walking down, I'm getting more and more anxious, and I get on the phone and she's crying, and I'm like, what are you crying about? Like, why are you crying? And what's going on? And she's like, your son was born. And I said, well, that's great, isn't it? Are you okay? Like, is everything all right? And she said, no, he was born with one hand and one leg. I said, what do you mean? I said, what? I have a son today. His name is Caden. And this guy's probably half the reason why I'm here today. Because when I look at him, that dude you'll never catch him without a smile on his face. You'll never catch him not laughing or joking or making really, really dumb jokes or messing with somebody, messing with one of his sisters or somebody. I have a son that was born with one leg, and he does have two arms. One of his hands has a little issue with it, but it's not an issue for him. Maybe an issue for other people, but not him. So anyways, had that happen while I was in prison, and I could probably go on, but I'm not going to do that right now.
We got a bunch of other episodes we could do. The entire thing.
But to wrap it up, to wrap up the story, I got out of prison, and when I got out of prison, there was this total surprise. I wasn't supposed to get out for like another 6 months, I thought, or something. And the guy calls me in. He's like, do you have people on your list? I'm like, on my list? He's like, does anyone care about you? I said, well, I think.
I hope.
I hope
so.
I said, I have somebody putting money on my books. They come visit me. Like, yeah, He's like, well, call them right now and see if they'll come pick you up tomorrow. If not, I got to wait for a bus. And I'm like, so I get on the phone, I call, I'm like, hey, they're letting me out of here tomorrow. She's like, yeah, right. I'm like, no, I'm serious. I'm not joking. They're letting me out.
Please show up.
Be here by 7, maybe 6:50. But she picks me up, and I got out that day, and the scenes from Shawshank Redemption kind of played through my head. I'm thinking, yeah, they're going to let me walk out, and they're going to shoot me, say I was escaping or something. I don't know.
But, like the fear going through your head.
The anxiety, man. It's one of the worst things about prison is being released.
Really?
It's terrible. It is terrible. Because of all the doubt that you have to deal with beforehand.
No.
And all you just don't believe it's real because you've been there for, no matter what, even if you've been in prison for 6 months, it seems like it's never going to end. Anyway, she was there and I left, and a few days later, I went over to that detox center and I went to go tell people, I went to go hug a few necks and let them know that, you know what? I've been sober for 14 months now. I've been sober, and guess what? I got my GED. And I went back and I told these people that. And there was this lady that the white supremacist, he was there. He's not a white supremacist.
Well, yeah.
We work out together now. I haven't seen him for a good while, but he's still in behavioral health working and saving people's lives, man.
Damn.
And then there's another guy who was a best friend, and our best friend. He's I couldn't stand this guy at all. Anyways, but he was the best man at my wedding just less than a year, just a little over a year ago.
Wow.
Great guy, wonderful guy. These are all people that I met there. But I went back, and this one lady, her name is Dina. Dina's a very, very good friend of my brother. When she heard me saying this, and she heard me that I had been sober for 14 months and I had my GED, she's like, hold on. She calls me CJ, hold on, CJ, hold on. And she runs to the back and she comes back and she's like, here, fill this out. And I look and it's an application. I'm like, Dina, did you bump your head? Like, I told you I just got out of prison. I can't work here. And she said, no, CJ, you bumped your head. You can work here. Fill out this application.
Get out of here.
And 17 days after prison, I was working at a behavioral health agency. Man, you guys.
Holy cow.
I still to this day, I've never turned back. This is all I've done since the last time. I haven't sold another drug. I haven't went back to the mess and the garbage and all the poison that I was into. Mm-hmm. And there's been rough times. But you know what? It's been this behavioral health thing, being able to be around it every day and being around hurt people and being around people that are at the very bottom, people that are hearing voices, people that have been destroyed, people that have been through tragedies, being with them, it helps me to be grateful every single day for where I'm at today. And today, I'm in a behavioral health agency, and I love it.
Dude, that's amazing. And it's crazy, too, how, and, what an amazing blessing to have the opportunity to go right into something right after you get out of prison, right? Because, like, a lot of times when, like, people that end up relapsing and going back to their old life, it's because they're put right back into the same environment. Same behaviors, same people, same patterns. And so they just revert back to what they know, right? And so it's like you had this amazing, I can't even, like the pieces put into place for you to be there
Yeah.
at that moment, at that time. What an amazing story. Some might call it coincidence, right? But it's like there are things in life that are too coincidental to be just coincidence.
Yeah.
You know, where you go, somebody else has a plan here.
Yeah.
You know, like I remember somebody asking, they'd been sick and almost died so many times, had cancer, treatment, and et cetera, et cetera. And they said, why am I still alive? And I was like, look, dude, I don't know why, you know, you were saved when this person wasn't.
Yeah.
But the why, honestly, is between you and that guy.
Yeah.
That's for you guys to figure out, you know? And a lot of it, I think, comes down to our choice.
Yeah.
You know, why am I still here when somebody isn't? It's kind of up to you.
Yeah.
You know?
Very true.
Like, that's what you got to figure out. I had a question. How did you change from hating those people to having them become some of your closest friends?
I got my GED.
How's that connect?
I never knew it was a problem. I never knew that there was self-doubt. I quit school when I was in 7th grade.
Really?
I got strung out on meth. I got a taste of meth and it was great. I remember it was great.
And so you're like, forget this.
It was amazing.
I'm going to go.
So I thought that I found a new lifestyle. I thought I found a new wonderful thing, and that only worked for a short period of time. And I quit school and I quit everything pretty much, and I became a father. Well, I had a kid, but I was very far from being a father.
Yeah.
But I tried and I did what I knew how to do. But anyways, how did I quit from hating these people? When I got that GED, I can't explain it. I finally accomplished something that I did, and I didn't cheat. And I didn't pay anybody, and I didn't weasel my way out of it, and I didn't break a law to do it. I actually, and I still don't understand, because that math, I could have turned it upside down and it would have been the same thing to me. But I got my GED, and it's just coincidental that it happened almost right before I got released.
Wow.
And I got that GED, and I thought, you know what, there was something inside of me that said, hey, there's something better. And even when I was on the yard, I've always found my way right into the worst situations. Well, it just so happened that the head of the yard and myself, and I say this proudly because I still talk to the person, and you know what I mean? I still have a lot of love there. But this person, we became really good friends because I knew how to play a guitar.
Hey, there you go.
He wanted to play a guitar, and I happened to play the drums, you know? And I helped him out one day, and we clicked over music, and it just so happened this happened to be the top guy. Well, cool, great. He would always tell me, you don't belong here. This ain't for you. This ain't who you are. When I got that GED, between him and between the GED, every bit of it just came together. And you know what? Something clicked. I didn't want to hate anybody no more. I didn't want to be ugly. I didn't want to be a part of the things that happened behind the bars. I just didn't want to be that no more. And so I can honestly say that it's like a switch, like a light switch turning on and off. I quit hating everybody, but the very first person I quit hating was this guy. Something changed. You know?
Man, that's powerful, man. I mean, because it's our choice. But I think something to understand for all of us is that when we see other people that are mean and angry and, you know, those people that, you know, lash out at us, we got to understand that the person that they hate the most at that time is themselves first. You know, like,
very low self-confidence, very low. You've been backed against a wall, you know, your whole life. And you may not even think about it, because I thought I was a pretty good guy. But until I finally realized, you know what, you hate yourself. You're killing yourself. You're hurting yourself, you know? But I mean, I just wish I could explain it in a better way, but I didn't want to hate anybody no more. I didn't want to hurt anybody no more. Like, my whole goal, everything about me, I just wanted to get out, and I wanted to do something right, and I wanted to show everybody there was something different. Yeah. All this stuff. And I want to say one thing. I don't know how much time we have or where we're at.
Dude, go for it, man.
But I want to speak to a higher power, because if you deal with behavioral health, if you deal with recovery, everybody's into this higher power. AA, right. NA, all these, what's your higher power? And for me, that was blasphemy. I'm like, what do you mean your higher powers? You know what I mean? Like, higher power is God.
Yeah.
That's God. That's... But I finally realized, and I can say this proudly, when I got out of prison, My higher power, I chose not to make it God.
Interesting.
The higher power wasn't God, because I had loved God all through this. I had been sensitive to God. I had been in dope houses before, and people looked at me and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "You're the one we're waiting for." I'm like, "Yeah, come on." They're like, "Man, I went to church with you." You know,
No way.
that stuff really happened. That's not me making a fancy story for somebody. Those things really happen. I can tell you these people by name.
That's crazy.
So I had known of God, and I dealt with God, and I had God in my life before this, but that wasn't what I needed at that time, because I tried that and it didn't work. I needed something more right in front of me, something that was serious. So I made my higher power my parole officer. His name is Butch Woods, and to this day I honor that man. And man, he knew when I was messing up. He knew when I was fibbing, I was lying. You know, he knew when I was full of BS. He knew it, and he would call me out on that stuff, but he didn't.
We need people like that.
Yeah, but he wasn't there with his handcuffs ready to arrest me. He was there to put his finger in my face and say, "You're full of it. You're full of it, man. You're doing it again, Chris." And so I got to a place with that man, and with the different things and situation, he became my higher power, because you know what? He was a power. And at that time, he had a badge and a gun that said that he could take me back to prison.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do that no more. I didn't want to go back there with all that hate.
Yeah.
Prison's full of hate. There's church. There's groups. There's yoga. There's a lot of different. There's library.
Prison yoga.
Yeah, there's also people getting stabbed in yoga. And, you know, there's
Yeah.
there's a lot of hate. There's a lot of, and anyone on this can tell you that there's a lot of hate in prison. But you know what? The higher power, I honor God, and I put him first in everything. But I needed that to be something that was right here, that was tangible, something that could reach out and say no and slap my hand.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to sell another drug. I didn't want to put another needle in my arm. I didn't want that life no more, and I don't want that life anymore.
Yeah.
So still to this day, I stay in contact with Butch Wood, and every great once in a while, him, Dave Johnson. Dave Johnson, he sent me my father's he was a probation officer that went to my house.
Man.
He was the one that put me in prison. Dave Johnson, he sent me an obituary, my father's obituary, when I went to prison. That's the only person that I got it from, that I believe, that
That's
I remember.
crazy. Like what?
And he sent it to say, "I'm sorry, Chris, I'm sorry for everything." And he sent me this letter. I'm not going to get into what the letter said, but basically, get it together, Chris. People need you. You know, I'll never forget these people. These people became my higher power, because it takes more. God is great, but God also had a lot of people around him that helped. Mm-hmm. Disciples, different things. Yep. So there's a lot more things that we can reach out to. That's why a lot of people, I hear them say, "I'm not going to behavioral health. I'm not doing that. I go to church." That's great.
But you gotta do more here, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that God can be involved in besides just church.
Well, here's the way I see it, right? Is like, you know, you hear that story about the guy that's in the he's like drowning in the water.
Yep.
And or whatever.
The boat
come by, and you know, he's like, "God, save me," and his boat comes by and he's like, "Hey, get in." He's like, "No, God's gonna save me." And he's like, "Okay, whatever." And the guy goes away, and then another one comes by.
Helicopter comes.
Yeah, God's gonna save me. And so he's like, "Okay," he goes away, and he drowns. And then he's like, "God, why didn't you save me?" He's like, "What are you talking about, man? I sent you a boat. I sent you a helicopter. Like, I tried." That to me is what behavioral health, what therapists, what parole officers, what
AA,
all of those
NA.
AA, all of those things are those lifelines that God is putting out there for us. So it's great.
Celebrate recovery.
It's great to say that we believe in God, but in the Bible it talks about, and whether you believe in the Bible or whatever, like, you know, like I'm respect everybody's beliefs, but faith without works is dead.
Yeah.
So you can say, "Oh yeah, I've got all the faith in the world," but if you're not willing to do the work, then it
I think
it means nothing.
I think aside from religion, you're right. I think aside from religion, if you're not willing to do the work, then it's not going to work itself. It only works if you work it.
Yeah,
you know.
And I go to church, and I'm very involved with my religion and everything. And one of the things that I'm glad that kind of we believe in our church is that truth is truth, right? So it's like anything that is good comes from God, right? Like if it is good and it serves his children, it is from him, right? And so when you say things like higher power, when I see people that are like, "Well, I need a higher power that's my parole officer or my spouse or whatever," to me, it's kind of like, it's almost like they're an extension
That's right.
of who God is.
And I
And so it's
got
like,
put down for that, brother.
if that's what you need in that moment, like that's where you got, like, though you got your blinders on to say, no, this is the higher power I'm focusing on. If you open up your eyes, you're gonna be like, oh, he actually was sent from.
I needed God with a gun and a badge that said, I'm going to put you in jail if you keep doing this, boy. Because I'm very theatrical. You know what I mean? I'm very hard-headed. You know?
You just said that
right. God, man, it's like I can't. I've been
Absolutely.
arrested. Fear only lasts for so long. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Fear's not a good motivator because it only lasts for so long.
Interesting.
And that's what, you know? So that's why I needed accountability. I needed things around me. And
100%.
you're exactly right. It was just an extension of what God was doing. It wasn't taking nothing away from him. And I've had people that have literally been in church and told me that I needed to stop going to these NA and AA groups.
Ooh, man.
And I needed to stop doing it. And that's
hurts.
And that's cool for them. That's cool if that's how they believe. But I got off of meth and heroin going to AA.
To be able to allow you to become closer to God.
That was Alcoholics Anonymous.
Right.
Right? You
So
know what I mean? So it's like,
yeah.
But
No,
you eat the meat, you spit out the bone.
Yeah.
That's what my papa told me. Pastor Josh, that's what he told me. He said, you chew the meat, Chris, you spit out the bone. He said, you can learn from a drunk sitting on a corner.
100%.
You can learn from this man, that woman, this person, that pastor, preacher, teacher, whatever, whoever they are. He said, just eat the meat and chew and spit out the bones. Don't choke on them.
Yeah.
You know?
I love that. And I think that that's such an amazing principle of how we can find unity. I know this is kind of a different topic, but like unity in our world, right? Is like we keep separating ourselves because we're like, oh no, you don't have anything to offer because of that one little thing that we might disagree on. Yeah. And it's like, what about all of these other things?
That's right.
That we connect on, that we have in common. And this might surprise some people, but I literally was like, I have a friend who's a Satanist.
Yeah.
And it's the craziest thing. But we were talking, like, he's actually like a good person. And I'm like, that just doesn't compute in my head. And again, we could go off on a whole other episode about that. But like the point was though, is that there was something that we had in common where we could, that we could connect over, you know, however hard it might've been to see, you know.
Most of the people that I call brother are pagans.
See, so it's like, you know,
I still love the person. I love the person.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. And I think that's in the episode that we just did yesterday. You can validate without accepting, like that you can. That's the way. Like that is possible.
Yeah.
And I think we've lost sight of that a lot. But oh my gosh, man! Like we're gonna have to have you back on. Like okay, we will, because I want to hear all the other lessons and, you know, all these other things we talked on the phone about being able to you know, cope with our struggles and our trials and the different things that you've learned, you know, through this process. But if you could pick the first one that comes to your head to somebody that might be going through this and might think, there's no way out. I can't get out of this. This is just my life now. What would you tell them?
Can I show you something?
Yeah, please.
You got a pen? Does anyone have a pen?
We can get one.
Or we can even...
Here, check this out. You just gonna draw something?
Here, just let me see that. Your pen.
Oh, it only works on
It's
here.
okay. Just let me see your pen.
Oh, okay.
What do you see?
Point.
What do you see?
A dot.
You said you want me to give them one thing that they can a little bit of hope, a grasp, a little bit of something, a little piece of a rope that'll say, hey, let me hold on to something, right? Yeah. What do you see? Last time.
Pen.
Can I tell you what I see?
Yeah.
I see a man with blue eyes staring at me. I see a wall. I see a door and a way of escape without even taking my eyes off of what's in front of my face. I can see another man sitting over here. I can see cameras and microphones. I can see light. I can see a whole lot more than the thing that's put right before my face.
Man.
There's anger. There's tragedy. There's car accidents. There's war. There's presidential stuff. There's all these different things that are being our bills. I did my taxes the other day. Lord, I'm on a different side than I used to be. But there's a lot of things that are being thrown in our face. You're a terrible person. You did this. You don't have a car. You don't have this. You don't have that. You can't. You're a terrible father. I've been told in here, not by people, but in here for years, You ruined your sons. You're a terrible father.
That one hurts.
And every day I get up and I move that pin out of my face. And I say, no, there's a lot more around me. My sons are successful. My sons are great. No, Chris, you're not a bad person. You're full of light. You're full of love. Even when when I piss everybody off to the core around me, my family, my sons call me sometimes and they're like, Dad, what's up with you? What's going on? I'm like, what? I don't know, Dad. I just know. And they know, but I don't focus on the thing that's put right before me. I try to find every other thing that I can find. If there's a little bit of hope over here, I'm going to grab it. If there's some love over here, I'm going to grab it. There's some forgiveness, I want to grab it. And I want to hold on to those things. I want you to hold on to those things because for each and every single one of us, there's something out there that we can grab onto. And that's what I do. And that's what I do when I wake up in the morning. I start with my gratuity list.
Beautiful. No,
that's where we're at.
I think that's amazing, because no matter how dark it gets, even like you're saying in the darkest place that you were at, there's still something that you can do, even if it's cleaning your mirror with some toothpaste. You know what I'm saying? Like there's always something, that you can hold on to. Thank you, Chris. Oh my gosh. If you guys have gotten value from this, please subscribe, share this with other people, because that is what gets more light on these messages of hope and resilience, that we can do this. You can do this. If you're going through this hard time, just like Chris was saying, there is something that you can hold on to that can give you hope. There are people out there, even though you might think that they're hurting you, like if they're putting you in prison or if they're telling you that you need to change, those people are there to help you. And I know that you can get through it. Please let us know in the comments. Let us know your experiences, different things that you have done to be able to get through those things, because together is how we succeed. Love you guys. See you in the next one.